aspects of the philosophy of existence of and phenomenology of. So you see how Heidegger is trying to understand the concept of being, the capital B, and he said how we understand the concept of being, but we cannot completely capture being. We cannot define being because it has different dimensions. Being escapes all sorts of definitions. We are trying to understand being. Therefore, Heidegger's ontology, right from the beginning, I said, is different from the ontology of Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas, that tradition. We have studied it in metaphysics, where they were talking about being as that which exists. Being is, there are two types of beings. What are the two types of being Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas spoke about? What are the two types of being?
Fine.
Dependent being and
What are the two types of beings?
Finite being and
Dependent being and independent being.
What are the other names for it?
Contingent,
finite and
contingent
infinite.
being and
Who said that?
necessary
Loudly say that.
finite and infinite.
contingent being and necessary.
Being is finite and infinite.
Infinite.
Finite being and infinite being. Other names are contingent and necessary beings and temporary beings and eternal beings. These are other names, but basically it's called finite and infinite beings. So they made a distinction between these types of beings. Always being was connected. There is finite being, and finite being is caused by whom?
Infinite being.
Infinite being.
Finite being cannot come on its own, it is caused. So Heidegger says the ontology of St. Thomas Aquinas, the ontology of Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas is following the tradition of Aristotle. He says that being is always connected to finite being, is connected to infinite being. Infinite being is connected to finite being. So Heidegger says this sort of ontology is not really ontology. Why? Because you are bringing two types of beings. You are not explaining the real being. So this type of ontology calls it as onto-theology. Note it down. He calls it as onto-theology. The traditional ontology calls it as onto-theology. Onto-theology. What is the meaning? There is ontology on the one side and there is theology on the other side. Ontology talks about finite beings. Theology speaks about infinite beings. So what Aristotle has done, what St. Thomas Aquinas has done, what Christian philosophers have done, they have not done real ontology. What they have done? What they have done?
Onto-theology.
They have mixed up
Onto-theology.
ontology with theology. Finite being with infinite being. Whereas for Heidegger, we have to remove that theology from ontology. Remove theology, remove infinite being, but only do ontology. That's why Heidegger's ontology is called as what ontology?
Fundamental.
Fundamental ontology.
What ontology?
Fundamental ontology.
Fundamental, because he's talking about only about being. He's not talking about infinity. He's talking about being. And here he does not make a distinction between finite being and infinite being. For him, there is only one being that exists. That is being with capital. He's not talking about infinite being. That point should be very, very clear. So he is trying to understand what being is, and we have seen the various aspects of being that are enunciated by Heidegger. The various aspects of being enunciated by Heidegger. 3, 4, or 5, which I have elaborated. Anybody has any questions? Anybody has any questions? Anything which is not clear? Now, if you read the notes, it will be much more clear. I have sent the notes. Any which